Well, hello and welcome to a brand new surgery, a brand new season of the cricket surgery. My name is Vasant, and as always, I have Aditya Joshipura with me. Today, we're going to talk about a very much talked about cricketer, one of the main batting mainstays of India in the last decade or so. It's Ajinkya Rahane. We're going to talk about his career, where he finds himself right now, and what is there to look forward in terms of his future. So, Adi, are you excited? It's been a long time since we've met. It's a brand new year. A lot of things have happened since our last episode. How have you been?
You would not have thought the last episode that we made was Steve Waugh versus Virat Kohli, when Virat Kohli seemed to be at the peak of his power. Seems like an age has passed through that, right? So they are extremely excited about this episode. I think we'll be bringing home some home truths that a lot of people have conveniently chosen to ignore. So can't wait to get started.
For sure, definitely. So let's talk a little bit about why we chose Ajinkya Rahane as the person to sort of kick this year off, this new season with. So one of the reasons is because we feel like he's been getting a lot of unreal hate from the cricket verse. And we want to set some things in context, and we're not going to claim that this is the greatest batsman since Don Badman was born. But this is a man whose career has had some great moments and some vital contributions, and that's what we are here to discuss today. Go for it, Adi.
Uh, and the first thing that we want to put as a caveat is that we are talking assuming that he might not play a test match more. So this is about his legacy till date from the time he has debuted, or maybe before the time he has debuted. I think Vasant might have some interesting stories to tell about that time.
Yeah, for sure. I was just reading about his early career, and I realized that one of the interesting facts about Rane, which probably doesn't happen as often these days, is he debuted. His first class debut was in Pakistan, playing in Karachi against Karachi Urban, where he scored 143 runs with 28 boundaries. It was at a strike rate of 70 runs. The Pakistan team, the first class team around that time in 2007, it wasn't exactly the team of like 97, for example, but still it was very, very formidable. And it sort of set the template for the rest of his career in terms of the number of boundaries he would hit every time he made a century. This murderous streak was just the first of many. He made over 1,000 runs in 3 consecutive years. And it was just impossible to sort of look beyond Ajinkya Rahane, and he was immediately in the focus, and he sort of gotten into the national reckoning at around that time. I also realized that he made his debut against Australia in India, and then he had a mammoth 2014 right away. Adi, do you want to sort of talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so it's an interesting story. His debut came a little later than most people thought, because that was a time when Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma were coming up. So they were considered to be, the first in line kind of things. But the moment the greats of the game, Tendulkar, Lakshman, Dravid, there were a lot of openings in the middle order, and it was assumed that Rahane would fill up that spot for at least 8 to 10 years. Glad to see he has done that, and he started it off with that brilliant sophomore year, if you would want to say, or a maiden year, if you want to say that, in 2014. So right at the end of 2013, he went to his first overseas tour of South Africa. I don't think anybody can forget that wonderful 96 in the second innings, the boy on a burning deck kind of an innings against the likes of Dale Steyn in full flow. You might remember, Vasant, we were laughing. That was the same test match where Dale Steyn sledged Rohit Sharma. Rohit, you know nothing.
Nothing. Yes, yes.
Yeah, exactly. So that was just a starting step. People recognize his overseas batting talent and his technique. So when he went to New Zealand a couple of months later, he scored his maiden Test 100 at Wellington. It was an excellent innings and put us in pole position, leading by more than 200 runs on the first innings. But then came that unbelievable Baz innings of 300 that stole the victory from us. Otherwise, that would have been a 100 in a win in overseas in New Zealand. 3 months after that came that much wanted overseas win with an unbelievable first innings 100 at Lords on an absolute green top where the team was in all sorts of trouble, 140 odd for 7, and then he shepherded the innings to a respectable score, and then the bowlers did the rest. So that was in the first year of his cricket, and then he was
And it
not
wasn't
done.
even done at that time, right? I mean, after that came, the much vaunted
We the
thunder
thing
at
is
the
the thing
MCG.
is the thing is we were scarred right through 2011 to 2014 with so many overseas defeats. This kind of steel, this kind of technique, and this kind of beauty of batting was not seen in those test matches. Then you come to Australia the same year, and then the innings against Mitchell Johnson breathing fire at MCG in the Boxing Day Test match is something I don't think any cricket lover should forget or can forget. Virat Kohli
I
was
just, I
at
just
his
want to, I just want to remind people that it was also the year. It was just around the zone where Mitchell Johnson was, the monster that he was, and the ashes that he had just the previous year.
he was almost close to unplayable, and the way Rahane took him on, we'll see some of his shots in the videos. It's just crazy, shifting away, moving his front foot, and then slapping him through point, slapping him through mid wicket, everything. And he dominated that partnership of 270 odd with Virat Kohli. I think it came at almost 4.5 and over, and in just a couple of sessions there was this huge partnership. He scored 147 at a strike rate of 85 against those guys and completely overshadowed Virat Kohli in an innings where Virat Kohli himself was utterly dominant. So, like 2014 was definitely
And
a wonderful year for Rahane.
And who would have thought that at that time that wasn't the only magnificent innings that he would play at the MCG? I mean, it's that specific inning set the template for a lot of innings after that. But it was a murderous 2014 for Ajinkya Rahane. If 2018 was the year of Kohli, there was reason to say that 2014 was the year of Rahane and probably Root at that time. Two batsmen who were
True.
absolutely
Absolutely true.
definitely.
Absolutely true. And just incredible to think that these were the scores in his first 15 test matches. Right. All this was done before 15 test matches over. I think the only player who's had such an impact in recent times in the first 15 test matches that he's played, I would have to think maybe Manas Labuschagne or Rishabh Pant.
Yeah, for sure. And Manas Labuschagne hasn't played as much away as Rishabh
Exactly.
Pant has or Ajinkya Rahane did. So all of these centuries that we talked about against New Zealand, against England, and against Australia, they were all at famous venues, all overseas, and that's how this person kicked off his Sena career. All right, so that was a great 2014. Ajinkya Rahane continued to do really, really well until 2016, 2017, till he was, Siddharth Monga, I remember, had written this article back then saying that he never used to be selected in the team, and now he's the first name on the team sheet. This was in 2016, in 2016 November, and as I mentioned, he was one of the mainstays
Yeah.
of the batting lineup. But
So
something
if we were
very
to look, yeah, so if we were to look at his numbers, so let's look at the numbers from 2013 to 2017, which was supposedly the first half of Rahane's career. Whereas Vasant very rightly said he was the first name on the team sheet, and it's not difficult to see why. This was the beginning of the Virat Kohli era, right? And Virat Kohli was, of course, the top batsman in the world and in the Indian team at that point. But you can see that Rahane's numbers are quite close to him, by no stretch of imagination, very, very low, right? And he was the second best batsman in the team. When it came to overseas, there's a surprise. Yeah. So you'll have to see that Virat Kohli has scored 1 run more than Ajinkya Rahane, but look at Rahane's average in those times. This is 2013 to 2017 overseas. So Rahane was hands down the most reliable of the Indian batsmen in overseas conditions. This includes all the overseas matches that India has played since Rahane debuted.
right. So
So it's an interesting one, as
this
Vasant would like to comment. Yeah,
Yeah, no, so this includes like Sena and all of the other countries. This is
yeah, it
all
does. It
all
does.
all nations from 2013 to 17. So yeah, and then this right after that is 2013 to 17 globally, and this is inclusive of what the Big Four. This is also the inception time of the Big Four era at that time, and this the main takeaway for us, like when we were sort of looking at this, was the most ridiculous thing was Ajinkya Rahane was never talked about in the same breath as the Fab Four. But as you can see over here, other than the colossal monster that Steven Smith is, Rahane and Kohli are at par when it comes to the number of
Overseas numbers.
overseas
Yeah.
number of runs. But look at the difference in the number in the average over here. Rahane's 1755 came at an average of 55, and Kohli's was also formidable at 48 with like 800s. But Rahane had 600s as well during this time. So 2013,
Rahane was never talked about as a part of the Fab Four, but you
not
would
at
see
all.
that his average is better than two of the Fab Four
Yeah,
during
exactly.
that time overseas.
Williamson was also ridiculous. He was probably the best of and like he played the least number of tests of all, but at the same time his average was also monstrous. 68 and yeah, Rahane was right up there, but never considered in the same breath as the Fab Four. So that's a really interesting stat for us. So what happened after this, Adi? So there is, I mean, we all have to agree that there are two significant phases of Ajinkya Rahane's career. In this first half that we saw right now, we've shown that we've shown the reason why Ajinkya Rahane became the mainstay of the Indian batting team. But after that, there has been a significant downturn in his form. But what we wanted to sort of show is how does his loss of form compare to some of the other batsmen in the team, and at the same time, what have his contributions been in overseas wins in Sena? So far, we've seen all overseas matches. We're now going to look at some wins and some important contributions from Rahane.
So yeah, I think the first question that needs to be answered and addressed is that definitely these are very difficult batting conditions. I think some of the most difficult batting conditions in the history of the game, at least from when we have started watching. The wickets are like doing all sorts of things, at least overseas as well as in India. And there has been a collective, downturn in batting form for all of us. As you can see, these are the numbers from 17 to 22. That's from 17 to the present date till the last Cape Town Test match. And you can see that Virat Kohli again is head and shoulders above all batsmen who have played a significant number of Test matches. That's 39 tests. This is just Indian batsmen. So you can see that he still averages 51.6 in that period with 3,300 runs. Of course, that unbelievable 2018 has had a lot to do with that. Uh, Pujara and Rahane have struggled, averaging 30. But when you take a deeper dive into these numbers, that's something that it keeps showing.
Yeah, to the naked eye, the 2,600 runs that Pujara has scored at an average of 35, or the 2,100 odd that Rahane scored at 30 might not seem like too many. But let's have a look at the number of runs that these people have scored away from 2017
Yeah.
to 2022. Yeah.
So when you see that how Indian batsmen have generally struggled in overseas conditions from this period, you would have to see that Rahane's average of 30 isn't looking the worst at this point. He scored 1,400 runs at an average of 30, which again for a number five is vastly acceptable. Kohli had that magnificent 2018 where he managed to average 50 plus in all overseas conditions. But even in the last 3 years, we have seen that his form has taken a turn for the worse. Uh, Puchara again 2018, that famous Australia series, he scored close to 600 runs, 558 to be very precise, and even then his average is around 34. So it's the problem with 3, 4, and 5 that Indian cricket has been consistently facing. And overseas, you would see that everyone averages in the mid 30s or early 30s. Every Indian batsman that has been tried. So we've been crying hoarse about lack of opportunities to the youngsters and him occupying a space or anything. But the first thing that we need to know is the fact that even the replacements have averaged more or less in the same range. Now we go to the players who have won the matches for India away in
And these are
that period where Rahane's form has been down. Now look at this. Describe this for us, Vasant.
Yeah, so the one thing from the previous stat that I obviously do want to point out is the fact that one argument we hear often is that Rahane and Pujara, even to an extent, have been occupying slots that other batsmen could have come in and sort of capitalized on, and somehow there's some merit to it. So, for example, if you could see, Vihari's only played 12 matches in this period. Other batsmen who might have, gotten a chance to shine probably have not gotten the chances that Rahane or Pujara have got. But there's a reason to it. There's always, there's a conspiracy theory that says that Rahane has something on the team management because of which, they're unable to drop him. but maybe it's the weight of his runs. So that is a context that I want to set before the
Weight
next.
of his runs, yes, and look at the incumbents there, the KL Rahuls, the Hanuma Viharis, the Mayank Agrawals of the world. So these have been the incumbents of the world, and it's not like they have set the world on fire when they have played a significant number of matches. You see, they have also played 12 matches and all, averaging between 25 to 35.
Yeah.
So it's just a toss up between a senior guy who is seen as a potential leader by the management versus some youngster coming in. So it's not as blatant as people have made out to be.
Yeah, and this chart comparison that we see over here, this the 1800 odd runs that we see for Kohli, this does include his 2018 as well in this. And
Yeah,
Rahane is, the allegation against Rahane is that he hasn't been doing well for a very long time, even before 2018. So in
yeah.
spite of that, he's on par with the others, and this I think really shows Rahane's impact in terms of what he's done for India in the last decade or so. This is the number of runs
Exactly.
in winning causes in away in like the home of opposition.
Is India away from 2018 to 2022, mind well, the time when Rahane has lost form. In the matches that India has won, the much celebrated Indian team in Sena conditions, the matches that India have won, this is what Rahane has done. Right? So we have won 11 matches across the across away formats in away situations, and Rahane still remains the top scorer with 900 runs at a very healthy average of 45. So in difficult batting conditions, whenever India has managed to do well, it's been Rahane who has been at the cornerstone.
Yep.
Now you look at this chart, which is worldwide, right? This is worldwide run scoring, and you can clearly see Rahane has managed to struggle from 2018 to 2022, averaging only 32, alongside the likes of Josh Butler and all. But this is the sign of time that he still ranks among the top 10 world scorers during that period.
Yeah, and there's merit to what you said earlier as well, right? I mean, other than you remove Joe Root from this entire list of people from since 2018 or whatever. Even Steven Smith has become
A human.
a human being now, and so like Williamson, yeah, 62, but like a lot of his runs were made in home conditions. I'm not taking away anything from Williamson's leadership, but that's the truth. I mean, a lot of his runs have been made home, so have Labuschane's, and there is merit to the fact that overall batting averages have fallen, but there are people out here in this list who've capitalized on it, and yeah, this is since 2018, all matches won in Sena. So that is something that the Twitterverse loves discussing. Total number of matches since 1st Jan 2018 in these four places. So, what has Rahane's contribution been in them, Adi?
So that's the most important thing, right? When India's managed to win 9 matches in Sena countries in the last 4 years, which is I would say that's a phenomenal achievement. It's SEA basically. We have not done anything in New Zealand of note. So, but in all those matches, again, Rahane has contributed. You could see that that's 103 half centuries in those. So, I mean, that's 4 very important innings, and I think all of those innings are very, very memorable. And this does not include one unbelievably good 48 that he made at Johannesburg, right?
Absolutely.
So
I think that's an important point to sort of talk about, right? Because of fascination with big hundreds, which are also important, but at the same time, a lot of Rahane's 40s and mid 40 scores have been, and this is an era where like people are teams are setting targets of 190, 220, and stuff like that. In those conditions, his 40s and his 50s, even as recently as the second test that we lost in South Africa, his and
what an innings that was.
exactly. That was, a 100+ run partnership, which allowed India to set a 240 run target at that time. So,
In fact, if you look through those 9 test matches that India has managed to win, you look at the first test match at Johannesburg. I mean, the final test of the series. The first, he was dropped. Remember, he was dropped before the
yes,
South Africa tour. He came back and scored a deadly 48 in setting a target of 240. Just
yes.
went after the bowling hammer and tongs, and we managed to win that test match by a margin of 70 odd
Yeah.
runs.
So
You
two
come to
significant
trend.
contributions in Johannesburg, but only one gets talked about because it was in a winning cause. But the thing
Exactly.
was,
But
it was
even then, yeah.
he batted with the same approach in both of those. He's always batted with that same approach.
right? You take that. Then you take the Trent Bridge test match, that was the Kohli test match where he scored 97 and 100. He had a partnership of 150 plus with Ajinkya Rahane, who himself scored an 80, a phenomenal 80 in the first innings. Remember, we were 2-0 down, and a downturn from there would have taken India nowhere. We managed to win Trent Bridge. You take the Adelaide win in 2018. Rahane scored 70 odd in the second innings against in a situation where things could have gone very wrong. Remember, we won the test match by 30 runs. Another fantastic partnership with Pujara at that time. We would have lost if Rahane had not contributed to that win. And of course, the most significant overseas innings played by an Indian captain in a long, long time was the Mullagh innings. Vasant, take us through that.
No, I am still not over that the magnitude of that innings. I mean, the manner in which he came. So that's also another interesting part of it. It's been exactly 1 year since the Goa Test match, since that crazy tournament that India won. And it's not been more than slightly over a year since Ajinkya Rahane played his second innings of a lifetime at the MCG. And at that time, it seemed like he was an able leader. He was very well poised to be Kohli's deputy. And in a year, one of them is no longer captain on any format, and the other person probably might not get to play an international game again. So,
Yes.
Things have come really, really fast since then. But the whole point of our conversation is in an era where batting generally has been difficult, Rahane, along with, Pujara, Kohli, and, Rohit Sharma, obviously, who's been imperious, have, resulted in the success that India have had since 2018. And there's a reason he continues to get backed. There's some merit in saying that he might be blocking some places. But yeah, in this match as well. So this is all of the match that India won away since 2017.
This is worldwide. This is worldwide.
Yeah, worldwide. All players. Yes, yes.
So see, Joe Root with those crazy double hundreds in Chennai and Gaul has just moved ahead of Ajinkya Rahane. Otherwise, but for those massive double hundreds, Ajinkya Rahane was comfortably leading this list of world players also in terms of the number of runs scored. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the most ridiculous statistic I've seen. Like even as we were starting to dive into this, we didn't expect to see this. Like we were looking for career stats around Ajinkya Rahane, and then as we started digging, we realized that he figures right at the top, even in the second half of his career, where he's not said to have as much impact as his first half. As you can see in this chart over here, right after the route, he's up there, and his average is not the worst at all. So,
Exactly.
so let me get this straight, Adi. So this is a man from the previous chart that we saw has contributed either at the top or at least in the top three when it comes to winning matches in Sena. This is also a man who's at the top or in the top three when it comes to winning matches overseas across all conditions. And this is not just happened since 2013 to 2016. This has happened since then as well. And he's not fared much worse than some of the other stalwarts in the team. So why should Rahane be the person who should be facing the axe first?
There's another aspect of his stature that we have not even talked about. His leadership qualities. Team who has not lost a test match.
Yes, yes.
Right.
And again, some might put that to a weird, crazy coincidence, and they might do that Lord Shardul kind of thing. But I think it's pretty ridiculous that Rahane hasn't ever lost a test match. He's led in a handful.
Also, and in a situation where everything was in ruins, right? Yeah. He led the team after 36 all out to come with that. I'm pretty sure that that takes a man of karate level abilities. Absolutely. So, I mean, see, the thing is that as you can see, an average of 30 over the last 5 years may not be seen as a good enough average. And, I agree if there are people who are asking for his head, because an average of 30 means that you at least need to try people out. The problem that I have with a lot of conversations going around is as if he's not contributed anything to the Indian team's cause in the last 5 years. And that is completely false.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? He sometimes makes batting look very, very easy. And because of that, some of his dismissals also end up looking like throwaways. But all said and done, it's I find it a little bittersweet in the manner in which his career has come to an end, if at all it has. I feel like being singled out or scapegoated for some of performances that have not been as expected, just for this one individual doesn't feel like it's right. And I think Kohli, even the captain, has mentioned many times before that this is a man who's reliable and he stood up for the team many times before, and there's a reason why we continue to back him. So having said that, again, we have the memories of him belting Mitchell Johnson around the ground, and that amazing second coming at the MCG in 2020. It sort of set ablaze the entire tournament, and that's where India's resurgence truly began.
So the important message that we need to take home is that his legacy should be celebrated and not questioned. Here is a guy who has played 80 tests with dignity, with distinction, led us to hands down the greatest series win that we could have imagined in our lifetime, and has had numerous contributions of note during that time, and has won us many test matches overseas, including the celebrated Sena countries. So if it was to end today, I think it's a career that should be celebrated and not questioned.
Fair enough. So question the place in the team, but not the legacy. And if you're questioning the individual's place in the team, question everybody's place in the team.
Oh, that's true. That's true. That's true. I would agree with everyone who says that youngsters deserve a chance and all. That's fair. But now that he might not be playing a test match, I think the abuses need to stop. Yeah. And the man needs to be celebrated for what an outstanding cricketer he has been for the Indian team, what an outstanding leader he has been for the Indian team. The perfect deputy for someone like Virat Kohli, who is fire, then Rahane is the ice.
Yeah, fair enough. And the other part is his catching as well. He continues to be a really good fielder. I don't think that's standard.
Excellent.
His fitness or his ability on the field has ever sort of wavered. He's always been reliable in any fielding position. I think he's like a true gentleman cricketer, and he's like very much molded in the old school
Mumbai school of batsmanship. Yes, absolutely.
Sure. So, all right. So with that, we'd love to hear from you about what you think of Ajinkya Rahane's legacy as well as his future in the Indian team. We'd love your comments to come in. Please subscribe, and hopefully we'll keep the episodes coming in a lot faster than we did last year. Take care. Cheers.
Thank you.
Nigga, evidently you just don't know who you're fucking with, so I suggest you get in your shit and keep trucking, bitch. Before I get my gotcha pressure case, blast and leave my gang rag laying on your face. I tattooed Dre name on my chest, cross it out, just another nigga that I exed. And you won't see R.I.P., you'll see P.N.D., a punk nigga deceased, yeah. And the bitch that was yours will be mine, buddy, all because you was on a nigga that was nutty. And I had to make an example. Nigga think I'm crazy now, but that was just a sample of a nigga with streetwise reality that don't give a fuck type Compton mentality. I stare at death right in the face, contemplate my last day on an everyday base. Cause a nigga never know when he go. I hope it only take one shot, cause I don't wanna die slow. My funeral will be full of my peers, people that never gave a fuck about me dropping 40 tears. I hope I'm in the casket face down, so all you motherfuckers can kiss my black ass now. And fuck all that crying all night, just be happy that I'm rid of this fucked up life. Yeah, and now you see you can't handle me. I give a shout to Toenail and the Ruthless fucking family.
Yeah, I'm with the